Hello and welcome to this episode of The Rest is Entertainment Questions and Answers edition. I'm Marina Hyde.
And I'm Richard Osman. Hello, Marina.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
I'm really well. Lots of lovely questions today. We start with a little bit of any other business, I think.
We do. We've had an email which says, hello, I am a journalist at Reach PLC. I just wanted to get in touch after your recent podcast about Reach and its article volume targets. By the way, you might remember this is the one where there are about 507 stories about Martin Lewis on Reach in one day.
And the journalists are forced to sort of hit certain targets. And this, we just sort of went through the process of how that doesn't seem to be the most financially viable way of running a business.
To resume the letter, a colleague of mine asked why we haven't heard our editors bang on about article volume as much in the last few weeks, and apparently it's all thanks to you. Following the podcast episode, there was apparently an internal meeting with the big guns. Some newsrooms that have a reputation even within the company as publishing pure rubbish, brackets Birmingham Live, really got the stick. That's the brackets are in the letter. I didn't say that myself, although, you know, I have to, it falls to me. I understand our central network team still have a high article volume expectation, but smaller regional newsrooms are no longer encouraged to look at what is doing well across the Reach network and just take it. I know so many of us that work at Reach felt so embarrassed following your podcast episode. It's funny that it took Richard Osman and Marina Hyde saying this is a ridiculous approach over the hundreds of journalists that have raised concerns at Reach for it to actually get casually scrapped. All the best, anon.
Anon. I'm so pleased because, we've said time and again, it's not the journalist. You work in the industry that you can work in. You take the jobs that are available, and it's the people running those enterprises that are the issue. So it's great that journalists are finally being freed. And
if it really is the case that the people running those industries on lots and lots of money are taking their idea from this podcast, then I must leave our listeners to make their own judgment about that.
But also, so often on this podcast we'll say something and it'll be on one of those Reach things, but this is a story that didn't make it onto Birmingham Live, where Richard Osman slams Reach bosses for inability to understand industry.
I love it when you talk like a headline.
Yeah. Should we get on with some questions? This is a question from Abby and Jack Bishop. They ask, I wonder if they did one letter at a time. We'll find out. I'm a Celebrity is a highlight in our household this time of year. Absolutely. And while watching, we noticed they often show preview clips of the trials, featuring individuals already completing them. Who are these people and how do they get them to agree to participate?
Somebody else asked this question as well, actually. First of all, I would say that the trials on I'm A Celebrity are more produced as a sort of entity than quite a lot of actual whole shows on television. Yeah. And how it works is that months and months out from the show actually airing, the producers get together and pitch a load, and people who devise these things pitch a load of trials, and about 20 of them are signed off.
We call them the trials team.
The trials team.
On these shows. We used to have them on Big Brother and stuff like that as well, the people who do those set pieces.
They are dedicated to that particular bit of the show, and it's huge. Then they go to the art department, these trials, because then you've got to kind of come up with all the concepts of them and actually make those things work. The producers go to Australia a long time. They're basically there from September for I'm A Celebrity, which, as you know, goes out in the middle of November or whatever. And then they've got lead producers for each trial they're supervising all the builds of the sets. And they've got various teams for every trial. Within the trials team, as the other teams, they've got the animal team, the lighting team, the art team, So you've got all of those people, technical, rig, anything like that. In terms of, I'm talk about slightly about the food in a minute. That's the Bushtucker shortly. Yeah. But the mechanics of the trials have to work. And so the crew will go. The crew and people who work on the show are those people as you see doing the trials.
All the people you see are people. They're literally, if you're on the trials team,
you've got to do the trial.
You spend 3 months doing trials, but also you do the versions of the trials that don't really work.
Yeah,
that are
when you
even
actually
more terrifying.
Ingest 15 cockroaches. Yeah, you do that. Sometimes people do also talk about. I know there's been in previous years a little bit of a sort of thing saying, oh, the contestants are told about the trials in advance. Okay. When you they don't do any rehearsal of the trial, anything like that. What they might do is if there's a trial that's kind of complicated and it's got lots of padlocks or something like that in, when you spend all this money and it's primetime TV and we all want to watch it, if they're like, oh, I can't get the key and they think I don't understand how the padlock works, then that's something of a waste and not very good television.
So in that situation, someone would get briefed, and that is because the trials team have done it 100 times and 90 times it's worked, and 10 times they go, oh, don't forget a couple of times we had the thing where we couldn't, didn't fit in the padlock properly, but you have to turn it round.
Yeah.
And so with those, you just go, okay, just for that 2% chance, this is what happens.
Exactly.
So
and the root of them.
You'll do a briefing with the contestant just to talk about some of the things that they might encounter.
Yes, exactly. And the route of a sort of section of tunnels where you want contestants to be able to get through, there's no point if they honestly just can't find half the beautiful tunnel maze you've built. That it's not fun and it's not watchable. The food, the Bushtucker Trials are a separate thing. They've got a head chef for that.
Do they?
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the things they know always is that portion sizes are very important.
Oh, God.
We all know this, don't we? They ideally like to make it 3 bites per dish, okay? And the head chef tests all of them multiple times. And they have to be really careful. They have to pitch it at just the right level of nauseating. Because if it is an honest, like immediate gag, like actual vomit reflex, then it's sort of genuinely quite exorcist and gross, and it's gone too far, and you can't really do the trial. So they have to find the happy balance between,
that's a restaurant I wouldn't go to.
No, absolutely.
The happy balance.
Yeah, the happy balance between, way too nauseating and not quite nauseating enough. So 3 bites and just at the right level of how emetic it is.
Yes.
So it's a huge. Each one of those trials is a huge production in itself.
Funnily enough, that team, a lot of the shows that I, worked on in the 90s and noughties, big game shows, big physical game shows, the Total Wipeouts and things like that of this world. So many of those producers go on to these teams and do the big tasks on Big Brother and on I'm a Celebrity, because firstly, it takes enormous technical expertise to make them. But secondly, you do need a really good quiz show, game show mind. You've got to think of the rules. There's a lovely guy I used to work with called Matt Wilkinson, and the only times I ever see Matt Wilkinson are either, sort of up to his ears in cockroaches in some sort of coffin, or talking to Jose Mourinho on the touchline at Soccer Aid. And I love seeing where people have gone. But yeah, those task teams, that's not like a junior gang of people going out there and mucking about. No. That's one of the biggest parts of that entire show, because so much of the content of that show is incredible trials, and so much of the clippable stuff from those shows. So these trials where extraordinary things happen, but it can't just be you're throwing cockroaches onto somebody. It has to be something clever. You have to move it on a tiny little bit. And so that's one of the biggest gigs on the whole thing. But yeah, those poor unfortunate people on that trial team, have done them all multiple times. They have done them all multiple times. The good news is they get to do the Celebrity Cyclone from the end as well, which makes up for the months and months of nausea.
I've got one for you, Richard, from Chris Alcorn, who says, can you explain how the Hollywood Walk of Fame works? Who decides who gets a star on it? What are the criteria to get a star? How are the slots for the stars allocated, as in who goes where? Surely when it started, they had no idea quite how many stars they would end up with.
Yeah, it's quite a neat thing, isn't it? It's one of those just sort of artificially created landmarks. You have to be nominated. So you have to be nominated by a third party but that could be your agent. So really, you could just say to your agent, could you nominate me for... Yeah. So you sort of can nominate yourself, but you have to be nominally nominated by a third party. And then there's like a shadowy committee who go through all the applications and decide who gets put on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I think there's 2,700 names there at the moment. So it's really, really big. But it can, Hollywood's big, so it can go on forever. Lots of people have declined being nominated. So there's lots of big stars who aren't on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Julia Roberts isn't there, Bruce Springsteen, Leonardo DiCaprio is not there. There's all sorts of people who aren't there.
Why? Do they think it's all sort of commercialised? And
yeah, exactly. They were like,
you work in big budget entertainment films.
Well, a lot of people don't like being walked on. They say a lot of the time, the Hollywood Walk of Fame people say that the major reason they get for not wanting to be on there is they don't like being walked on. There is only one star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame that you cannot walk on. And that is Muhammad Ali, who's up on a wall. Because he said he refused to be. He said, I definitely want a star, but I don't want to be walked on. So he's up on the wall of a theatre, Muhammad Ali.
Wow, celebrities are mental. I've said it before.
Yeah. You can be nominated in lots of different categories. So you can be nominated for entertainment, for music, for film. So lots of people have multiple stars. Gene Autry, who used to sing all the cowboy songs and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, he's got 5 stars on the like a Michelin restaurant. Gene Autry's got 5 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which is the most. Do you want to know who's going to be on the Hollywood Walk of Fame this year?
Yeah.
Who has been nominated this year and is about to go in?
I always thought they really liked it because you when they do the pictures of them, everyone always seems that it's so moving when they get their star and blah, blah.
Well, I think most people do, but it's like getting knighted, isn't it? There's all sorts of people who turn that down. And then they've turned it down.
If you let people know that you've turned it down,
then you didn't turn it down.
Then you didn't turn it down. You might as well have taken it.
This year, Michelle Yeoh is getting a star. Chris Pine is getting a star.
Chris Pine's getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
You don't think? He's been in a lot of things.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of things. Okay, no offence. I mean, no offence to Chris Pine, you know.
I think we've given away someone who's not on the committee. So if you were on the committee of the Hollywood Walk of Fame, we should do...
I can't explain to you how long the interview process would be.
Can we do a Wrestlers Entertainment Walk of Fame where people can submit names to us and we start our own Walk of Fame?
Well, you know, all I ever want to do is say yes, no.
Yeah, so
this person can't be let in and this person can be.
But we'll be a committee and it has to get both of us to say yes to be let into the House of Games Hall of Fame, to be let into the Wrestlers Entertainment Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
But you would say Chris Pine, no, due to
he's not a big enough star. Sorry.
So you ring his agent?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do it right now after the show because I'm quite busy. But if I run into Chris Pine's agent, I'd say, tell me the process. Who was the one who nominated him? Was it you?
Okay, for next week, just send us in some names and we'll say yes or no, and we'll start our Wrestlers Entertainment Hall of Fame. Also this year, I'd be interested. Gwen Stefani, would you let her in?
She's got one song, but carry on.
Talking of songs, Def Leppard are getting a star.
Okay, fine.
That's fair enough, isn't it? Def Leppard, come on. Dr. Dre.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, come on. Waving Through. And Christina Ricci as well.
Yes, fine.
Yeah, happy?
Yeah.
Just the only people not getting in there are, Chris Pine and maybe Gwen Stefani.
Stefani's not getting in. You don't get, what's she on, like the American Voice or something? She's getting it from that and the one song.
Yeah, but Sweet Escape with Akon, I'd give her a star just for that.
Oh, right. You're just giving it out for collabs, for feet.
Yes, a great song though. And Akon just is the woohoo woohoo. You know, Gwen Stefani's carrying a lot of that. So that's the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You have to be nominated. And
you have to have hard carried Akon in one song.
The cost of maintaining a star each year is about $50,000.
Are they made to pay for it? Which
they
would be brilliant.
are indeed.
That's
yes.
like the National Trust. You want to leave your house to the National Trust. Apparently, you have to give like about £1 billion so they can continue to look after
Really?
it. Yeah. I don't know if that's still accurate, by the way. But in the old days, it used to be like,
so you're going to leave it to
deal
them
with my
and pay
stately
for it.
home anymore. It's like, yeah, okay, you've got to leave some sort of fund to keep it all going. I don't know if that's the case now.
Yeah, you have to pay a £50,000 fee, which is for
every year.
It's for no, the $50,000 covers the installation and the upkeep and the ongoing maintenance as well. So I think it's a one-off payment. But you know, if you're Gene Autry, I mean, it adds up, doesn't it?
I bet Gene Autry wasn't charged quite that much. It'll only have become a chargeable.
Yeah, he probably finds out like buy one get one free, doesn't he?
He lives back in the years where there was an American state, and actually the American state would have, even in the state of California, would have paid for those stars. Chris Pine knows what it's like to grow up without a safety net, and you know he's going to have to pay for his own star.
I knew we were going to talk about the decline of the American state at some point.
We're always going to talk about small government.
Yeah.
When we get into the questions, we're always going to.
Always end up. Greg Wallace, small government. Hollywood Walk of Fame, small government. Absolute textbook Wrestlers Entertainment question from Alice Bentley. Thank you, Alice. Why, at the end of BBC News broadcasts, do they show the date in Roman numerals? We noticed this the other day and can't understand why they don't just write the date in a more obvious way.
It's interesting. That's all. This is the sort of copyright notice that comes at the end of the credits, and it actually takes its lead. Everything you see on a screen anywhere has one of those sort of copyright
notices. MMCX.
Yeah, MMC. Yeah. Originally, the movie studios in Hollywood used to do it. Everyone's sort of taken their lead almost from them because they were the first people putting actual screened entertainment out. And they used to write the date in normal, what you call Arabic numerals, as in 1937. Yeah. But they changed.
Yeah, I know numbers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, some people might not know they call Arabic numerals.
I'll tell you what, you can slag off Gwen Stefani, but now you're trying to explain to us what numbers are.
Right.
Wow.
Okay. Okay, so they thought it was classy, the Hollywood studios, which is why they changed it to Roman numerals.
Okay.
But also what they always want to do, and this is a huge part of why we still do all this stuff now, is they wanted to be obscure about when it was actually released, because they want people to feel that they're watching new product.
That's clever.
Which they didn't call it product at the time.
Yes.
Although they did treat it as product, but they didn't talk about it like that. And this is the same with the BBC, which used normal Arabic numerals until 1976, and then switched over to the Roman things. I agree with you on the news. The fact is, it's just something that's standardised across all their output. Yeah. On the news, it doesn't matter because you're watching that day's news. None of us is watching the box set of the news. If you are, by the way, I can tell you some really bad things have happened in recent years. Sorry for the spoilers.
Don't watch season 17.
Yeah. It's primarily in a funny kind of way. Used to look classy. Now it's a lot about deception, and they don't want you to know when it's made.
Because you can't work out. That's clever. That's like magazines. They'll release the magazine that comes out on September the 15th will be the October edition, just so for the whole month it looks like you've got this month's magazine. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very clever.
And they changed really quite late in the day. I mean, 1976 is pretty late.
Yeah, or MM. No,
Thing.
If only I knew Latin.
Yeah.
Alice, thank you so much for that, because I didn't know the answer to that. That's very interesting.
Well, this question can only be... You are literally the best placed human to answer this question.
Wow, is it about reaching something from a high shelf?
It's from Thomas and Tanya Herbert.
We're getting a lot of questions from couples.
Yes, which I love. Nice. I love that for us.
I love that for us. I'm not saying they are a couple.
No, if there could be brother and sister.
Brother and sister, but there's two of them.
Okay, there's
That's
two
what
of
I'm
them.
saying.
They both ask, having just seen Larry Ricard and Michael Ball do so well on House of Games, my wife and I noticed how much of the success is by players in the seat nearest to yourself. Wow, mega conspiracy incoming. Could it be that contestants closer to you, Richard, are getting an advantage?
Absolute classic case of confirmation bias, this, because once you spot something yourself, you never spot anything else. There's a brilliant guy called, if you want to follow him on Twitter, Daniel Mark Hurst, who has the entire database of every single result ever in House of Games history, like every game we've ever played, every prize we've ever given away, the whole thing. Even the production team use him from time to time. Using his database, in fact, I can tell you exactly which seat it is an advantage to be in. People always used to say,
seats?
Of all four seats. And if you'd asked me, I would have said seat 4 for reasons I will get onto.
Ooh.
The average episode score, seat 1, which according to Thomas and Tanya is the best seat, 6.8. Seat 2, that's the points you score per episode. Seat 2, 6.8 also, exactly the same. Seat 3, 6.4. Seat 4, 7.8.
Shut the front door.
Seat 4 is the biggest advantage seat to be in, I would say. Now, what might be the reason for that? I don't know. Well, what might be the reason for that seat 4 is the best? Seat 4 is traditionally the one people say it's best to be in seat 4. Quite often on that show, it's sort of like a dinner party, that show, by and large. And before the show starts, we sit down with everyone, have a little chat. So we do a little
When I'm working,
quiz.
by the way, you know this, and when I'm working, and if I'm working in the evening ever, and I'm not at home, the entire rest of my family watches that with an iPad propped up on the table, which would never be allowed, by the way, when I'm at home. So it is genuinely a dinner party for the rest of my family.
I'm very glad to hear it.
When I'm working, believe me, that doesn't happen at any other time.
Beforehand, we meet the 4 people, and then myself and Briege and Tamara, the producers, we work out who do we want in what seat. And by and large, we're just thinking about how it's going to play out across the week. Who feels like maybe they're a tiny bit more nervous? Who'd be funny sitting next to each other? Seat 4 is quite far away, so who do we know? Just absolutely, they'll be all right in seat 4. They can look after themselves.
Tells a lot.
Yeah, the plasma, very occasionally enough to make a statistical difference. The person you can put in the seat 4 is the person you know is a good quizzer, and so doesn't need sort of things explained, or doesn't you just know you can leave them be, and they'll be absolutely fine.
Where would you put me?
Where if you want, it depends who you're on with. If you're on with H from Steps, Paul Chuckle, and one of the cheeky girls, I put you seat 3. I'm having H from Steps next to me.
Yeah.
I'm having Paul Chuckle next to him because that's fun.
Yeah.
And then I'm having you and the cheeky girl on seat 3 and seat 4.
And she is just the most, if it's Gabriella, the one who went out with Lambert Over, so she is the most, just to pick a cheeky, she is the most confident and can just fly by the seat of her pants.
She can look after herself.
There on the wing.
There's certain people, if you're putting people around a table for a dinner party, there's certain people you can put on a wing. They can just sort of, they'll be all right further away.
I'm that person. I'm always put next to someone's difficult aunt or uncle at a wedding because I can deal with it.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. But that's why, again, I wouldn't put you, I'd put you somewhere in the middle, because then you're going to cross.
I'm running interference between Paul Chuckle and Gabriella, if there is interference.
Of course there'd be interference.
There's interference to run. I'll be running it.
You'll be running it. The one thing we've always done, it's funny, for the first couple of series, I think we always split up the men and the women. So it was always man, woman, or woman, man. And it was after about 2 series, I just thought, I don't understand why we're doing that. It doesn't make any good. But every show that's ever been made always does it.
Yeah.
And I thought, I didn't understand why we're doing that. So we made a conscious decision to just go, let's put people where we want them to be at any given time. It's an inexact science, and sometimes we change it right at the last minute. But it's me, I've got to spend the whole day next to the person in seat 1, and they've got to spend the whole time next to me. The person in seat 4, as I say, has to feel sort of the whole day they're not being slightly left out, and the people in the middle can there's just exactly like a wedding plan or a dinner party plan. It's just working out who's going to work where and how and why, which people will work well together, which people can kind of hang out by themselves, which people like to feel in the center of it. So it's entirely sort of personality based, but I think that thing of seat 4 being slightly the best place to be, it must come from that thing of sometimes
it's correlated. It's not causal, but it's correlated.
I think so. I think it comes from sometimes if someone is maybe slightly older, a very good quizzer, and I think, do you know what, they'll be absolutely fine where they are, and I think it might be something to do with that. But yeah, definitely seat 1 is not the best place to be. Larry Rickard was in seat 1. That's a brilliant week, by the way, if you want to watch it on iPlayer. Larry Rickard and Michael Ball. But yeah, seat 4 is the kind of that's like the Grand Prix one. But then again, since I knew that from a few seasons in, I try and switch that up as well a little bit more as well. So you do kind of think, oh, maybe I'll. So it's maybe those stats will come together a bit closer. But yeah, Thomas and Tanya, yeah, there is no advantage to being in seat 1 other than being able to chat to me in all the recording breaks, which is a dream. Marina, one for you. Carl asks, when a season ends on a cliffhanger, do they record the start of the new season right away or set up the scene again? For example, at the end of season 5 of Game of Thrones, when Jon Snow redacted, do they have to wait a few months to reset the season for the first season of season 6, or do they record it after he has been redacted?
The answer to that is no. They redo the whole thing if they're going to pick up from the end, because even if you've got, in the case of Game of Thrones, and they're doing it off books that either existed or George R.R. Martin has a plan for how they were all going to turn out, and is quite an ornery creator and has got quite a lot of views about how it's going to pan out, even if he hasn't actually got around to writing the book yet. No, you always will start all over again. I know it sounds sort of like, oh my God, thank you for your service, but to get a season of television actually onto the screens, and to even get it to the point where the scripts are surrendered for production. Scripts are never finished, by the way. Yeah. They're just sort of surrendered to production. There's no way they know how the next season is going to start. And there's all sorts of different, even on something like that where you've got source material. There's lots of different reasons. The show might not come back. Audience reception is a big thing, whether or not, and the people who make the TV will tell you that it is, and they say we don't pay any attention to what the fans say. They do pay attention. Mm. You might, on whatever show you're doing, you might decide, okay, let's have a time jump at the start of the next season. Yeah. You just do not know. No show has got the next season's script. Actually, Will Smith for Slow Horses, he was in a situation where they were writing the next season while they were still filming the other ones, but that was because they have Mick Herron's brilliant books, and they had and it was a kind of crazy production schedule for that show. But in general, just getting to the end of that one is beyond what most people can manage. They have no idea what the first words of the first scene, and even if they pick up, they will reset that whole thing. You will all go back to wherever it was that Jon Snow was X, and you will do the whole thing all over again, because you simply don't know. You may start the book in a different place. You may. But
I get the question from Carl, absolutely, which is, given we talk a lot about how the setups are the expensive things, or booking the studio is the expensive things. Once everyone's there, but presumably at the start of the next series, say for example, a season ends on a sort of snowy hillside with lots of bodies everywhere, you would have footage that you could cut into the very beginning of the next season. You can have stuff you can cut,
yes, but actually you're going to have to go back. You probably won't pick up at the exact moment. I know in that season, I know what else happens in the next season, what else happens with Jon Snow. So they've got all sorts of kind of things, thinking, how are we going to pull that off in the case of this particular character's storyline. Everyone is going back to the table, and there's going to be a long writer's room, and they're going to work out how, and they're miles away, even at the end of the writer's room, of deciding exactly what the first bit of the next season will be. They haven't even worked that out. Just getting it to the end of the show. Huh. It's sort of crazy, because you think, oh my God, and then you've got to get all those people back out there again.
Yeah.
And you also never know if your show's coming back.
And no one in that scene can have a haircut or put on weight or anything like that.
No, well, if they have, then you better make sure that you're starting the next season adapted to that, because that's what you're going to have going forward. So that is another sort of part of it, that if people do look slightly different or whatever, or you're going to have to shoot around this or that, you will you'll be starting with what you've got going forward for the next however many months, 10 months it's going to take to shoot the next season of Game of Thrones. A final question, Richard, about desert island discs. Aidan McCarter says, how are the castaways selected for desert island discs? Are they interviewed and or vetted to make sure they will make an interesting programme? Has anyone not proceeded past this point? How much assistance, if any, do guests get in compiling their list of discs?
That's one of those ones. So many TV shows, your entire difficulty is getting good bookings. You know, the celeb booker's job is not a happy one. The whole thing is we need bigger bookings, better bookings. If you book desert island discs, it's one of the few things where everybody says yes.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, where you can get a cancer specialist from Imperial College and put them on and have one of the best ever episodes you're ever going to have. So for a celeb booker, it's the absolute dream because everybody you ask says yes. It's not one of those ones like who do you think you are, where they'll research you and suddenly go, do you know what? Actually, your songs aren't very good. No, we've actually looked into this, and this Future Islands B-side is not going to work for us. So once you're on, you're on. I think that because I did desert island discs, and I don't know what it's like for other people. I think because you instinctively understand when you do that. Growing up, when you think what would my desert island discs be, you just think I'm just going to choose my 8 favourite songs. And the second they ask you to go on, you realise how many times over the years you've listened to desert island discs, and you realise actually it's a story, a journey through your life, and so you have to pick songs that represent different parts of your life rather than just me picking the entire first side of Bandwagon-esque by Teenage Fan Club. You do have to go, do you know what? This is about when I was a child. This is about, when I was at university. This is about when I had kids. This is about, this job I did that was memorable. This is about my wife. You realise you want to pick songs that mean something to you. So the actual songs you end up picking are very, very different from the songs you've listed in your head over the years. But yeah, they don't give you any help at all. I wonder if you did pick just 8 songs by Teenage Fan Club, someone might step in and say, I wonder if we could maybe, because we might want to talk to you about this part of your life. We might want to talk to you about the part where you're a hostage in Beirut. So it's if it's all Teenage Fan Club, I don't know how we get in to that part of your life. I'm not absolutely sure. So maybe they have that, but no, it's just you. I mean, just kind of tearing your hair out, thinking. But it does have to represent me. But also, I want the songs to be good. And if you'd show me the 8 songs I chose even 5 years before, I'd have thought you'd absolutely lost your mind.
Those aren't my 8 songs.
Yeah,
no.
But I have so for example, in my kids, you just think, okay, I need a song where I can think about my kids being young, the songs that I would always listen to. So for that, I had 2 choices really. So Fiona Apple is now very cool, and my daughter said to me, I really, everyone loves Fiona Apple, but I sort of really know her. I said, yeah, we used to listen to you endlessly. I used to love Fiona Apple. So I thought maybe Extraordinary Machine, or the first cool song they ever liked, which Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots by Flaming Lips. So it's going to be one of those 2, which again, neither of those are probably one of my 8 favourite songs in the world, but they reminded me of a certain time in my life. So choose that. I had the snooker theme tune just because it was about me as a boy.
By the way, Richard's episode is wonderful. You can go and listen to it. It's so good.
Well, Lauren is a fantastic host on that. It's a lovely show to go on because you are able to open up. I told you when the first meeting I ever had with Chris Columbus, we were talking about music. He's a huge music fan, and he was saying, "Oh man, you're on Desert Island Discs. That's my dream." I said, but they would love for you to be on Desert Island Discs, so that we've got that hook up in. So
great, that's happening.
Hopefully Chris will be on that fairly soon. But yeah, it's one of those things when nobody says no. Nobody is prescriptive about what you can say and what you can't say. They'll have a little chat with you and say, we maybe talk about this, maybe talk about that. And that makes you think maybe about songs that you might choose. But yeah, it's possible that if you chose a certain group of songs, they might intervene. But I think people understand what it is they're being asked. But if at home you've got your list of 8 songs for Desert Island Discs, have a little think about if they rang you tomorrow and said, oh, but we're going to talk about this and this and this, whether you might change some of those and what you might change them to. But it was a really lovely thing to be asked to do. But one of the reasons it's such a good show is they do give you absolute freedom.
That's wonderful. There's so many of these questions we could do a whole episode on its own, but do please keep them coming. The address is therestisentertainment@gmail.com.
Don't forget, you got the Rest is Entertainment Club, therestisentertainment.com, if you want to sign up for ad free, if you want to sign up for our bonus episodes, anything like that, you want to join the gang, it's a newsletter, all sorts of things like that, you would be very, very welcome. But as always, if you don't wish to join, we will continue with our normal service. I promise you that, 2 times a week till the end of time.
And on that note, see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.